Good?
Oh, yeah.
All right, here we go. The NSK Podcast, episode 37. Will, long time no talk. How are you doing?
Doing well since our last time meeting.
Good to hear, good to hear. All right, so you got home with this one, creating a social norm. So today we're living in pretty game-changing times. You never heard that one before. That was a new take by me. But I think that there will be a time, at least some point in, not the too near future, but in the distant future, where it's like the idea of not working will be more normal. And if we don't figure out how to destigmatize that now, we're going to have way more income inequality and social, what's the word I'm looking for, disparities than we currently do. So how do we create a social norm around work? Andrew Yang, 2024.
Around like working as more of an option?
Not an option, but it's like there's just, at some point there's going to be people that don't have the skill set to do jobs that are adding value to the market.
Yeah. So like in a world of growing complexity, a lot of people are just never going to be in a place where they can contribute very much. Is that kind of your point?
Contribute in the traditional way. I think everyone can contribute in their own way, right? You can contribute on a more micro level to your family, to your
Oh,
community.
sure. But like, moving the chains of like industry forward, it's like only so many people can really.
Yeah, especially with artificial intelligence and new technology coming in. It's like there's no rule of economics that says like at any given point there will be new jobs, right? So
right,
I'm trying to figure out how to square that circle, I suppose.
Well, it's funny. It's going to be interesting to see how governments react to this because I could very much see, like in the Industrial Revolution in England, when they first came out, they like tried to regulate away machines.
Right,
that didn't work out very well. So it's going to be interesting to see like, are we going to fall back into that rut of like, let's try to regulate away this unstoppable technological problem? Like, how do you think people react to that?
Yeah, I know. And that's usually the argument. It's like, Industrial Revolution, like people got new jobs, we got better jobs, standard of living rose. It's like all good things, but there's no reason to think that at some point we won't hit like some sort of precipice where there's we're just kind of creating value out of our. And the idea is that if we don't figure it out now, then there's only going to be a tiny percentage of people at the top who are really reaping the benefits, and the income inequality is going to be crazy bad. Like right now it's pretty bad. It's going to be significantly worse. So I think I got a little long-winded here. We'll have to revisit that one at a future date.
All good. Okay. So logical fallacy here. Let me see if I can explain this to you a little better. So our friend Tom, you mentioned the idea of being a time billionaire, and I thought that was a really cool metaphor for a way to think about your time and how you spend it. Like kind of that metaphor. But I think when you introduce ideas in new lights using metaphors, there's also a bit of a logical fallacy you run into. Any thoughts on what that might be?
Logical fallacy, metaphors, representing things in ways.
Yes, that's a very good word. Representing things.
Yeah, some sort of fallacy of misrepresentation, fallacy of like conceptualizing abstract concepts that really aren't meant to be conceptualized. I don't know.
Well, not that they're not meant to be, but it's the map and territory fallacy, right? Where it's like just because you have a map, that doesn't mean the map is the territory. It's just an abstraction of the territory. And it's like the same thing with some like kind of catchy ideas, even though they might actually be really great ideas still. But there's a lot more to them than just the concept. Like there's a lot of like how do you apply it well? When is a good time to use it versus not? I feel like some people get these like charts and maps of like how to navigate the Tahoe National Forest, and they take that same set of maps to like the desert, and they're just like, why aren't my maps working? And so I think there's always like a time and place to use certain ideas, almost like a map in different places, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I like that. I think it's focusing more on like the framework and the idea as opposed to like I guess using your logic there with the Tahoe versus the desert, going down a Death Valley or something like that. You realize that it's not going to be exactly as it is, but the framework is still there, so you can kind of manipulate and change it as it goes, something like that.
Yeah, and it's just like when it's just an idea, it's still just this abstraction. Until you're actually there and like doing something with it, that's when it becomes more of like something that you can kind of share and talk about more deeply, I would say.
I like that. Will. All right, help me with this one. Actually, no, not help me with this one. I'm helping you with this
just
one.
listen. I'll listen.
I'm helping you with this one here, William. So I was out surfing the other day. Pretty gnarly terrain. And I'm with a buddy, and he talks about, these waves look easy in the middle of winter surf in NorCal. I was like, easy? What are you talking about easy? This isn't going to be a battle for our lives out here. And even if it is going to be easy, think about it and frame it up that's going to be a little bit more difficult than it really is. So when you accomplish whatever you need to accomplish, it's going to be like, that wasn't that bad. Instead of saying, this is going to be super easy, and then you get there, it's actually pretty difficult. So the easy is the spectrum.
Right, so you're going back to this expectations thing that you're a big fan of undersell, overperform. So
I love expectations. And yeah, messing with my own brain.
Right, so here's something where I think you could use the easier, expect it to be easy. I think it's actually a really good thing. I think a lot of people, they get this idea that because they're not well versed in an area of knowledge, they could never possibly do or contribute anything to it. And when the reality is, you can get a pretty good grasp of a new idea and the basics of it, like relatively quickly. Becoming an expert much longer, but you can, like if you have this mindset of it's impossible for me to get up to speed on like data analysis, it's like you can get up to speed. It's easy. Like you can get up to speed. It's still you're not gonna be able to get to expertise level. But I think having that mindset of it is easy, I can do this, can be useful.
Yeah, I guess it probably goes on a case-by-case basis. I know for me, it's like, it definitely helps for me to say that's going to be harder to start or like harder to do something. I'm terrible to hike with. If you ever do like a long hike, Will, I always have the mindset of if it's 10 miles, at mile like 6, I'm always like, there's only 10 more miles. Like I convince myself, and then like at the end, I'm like, wait, no shit, we're at the end, that's crazy. So
just like telling yourself lies is what you like to do.
Basically, just telling myself lies the whole time. So when I actually get to the end, I'm like, it's really not that bad. Instead of being like, I guess I basically just reframe my tip of the day from last episode as far as like working backwards as opposed to looking forwards. It's an interesting kind of psychological tool that maybe some folks will use. Maybe some folks will think it's terrible, but for me it helps.
Okay, so big magic wand time. Here's your magic wand, Dan. Yep. You are a man of many passions. I know many different interests and passions. But now you have a magic wand to give yourself a new passion. So an area where like you've always admired other people who have a passion for this, but you've just never really been that into it. What would you use your magic wand to give yourself a passion for?
I like this one. I like this one a lot. Yeah, the first thing that popped into my brain was like any sort of technical acumen, like engineering, having knowledge of like building things with your hands. Like like some folks just have that penchant or proclivity to just be able to build and see and understand like weight distribution and stuff like that. I just got none of that. Or even going into designing any sort of design or like coding. It's kind of the same idea, but just with software base. So anything technical, I would really like to add that to my quiver.
Nice. I think if I could develop a passion or like give myself just a new passion, I think it would be something for like fashion or
right, all of the fashion. It's
I'm
the
just
evil
not
of
very,
fashion.
I'm just not very into like clothing,
Simply.
fashion, and design. But I think it's cool. I'm just like not very into it. So I think it'd be cool to be really into it. You know, and just
I
like
like the shirt you're wearing. The shirt you're wearing's pretty nice.
it's just like a generic sports jersey. Like I'm a dude who wears sports jerseys. That's like the lowest level of fashion, right?
No, you said it. You said it. Well, according to our last segment, it's pretty easy to dive into things. So you could. It's really not that hard to
No,
dive
but I'm
into
just
become a
like
fashionista.
I could dive in, but I'm just
You
not
know?
that I'm not that interested in it though. Like I think it's easy to dive into things that you're interested in. That was my point
Okay.
with that.
Interesting.
Like if you're genuinely interested in it, you shouldn't not do that because you think it's too hard. Like if you're genuinely interested, go for it, and then you might be turned off once you realize it's a little harder than. It's not all roses, as I say.
That's an interesting point. I think that a lot of folks will. I'm not sold on this idea of like trying a lot of things. I think it's like only if you're going to commit to something, like you have to really like commit. You know what I mean? It's like some folks have the idea of like I'm just going to read a few pages of a book. You know what I mean? I'm just going back to my original points here. But it's like to me, it's like if I pick a book, I'm finishing that thing. Like I made a commitment there. You know, and I feel like you can get kind of lost in the sauce of, oh, it's easy to start something that you're interested in. I have a lot of interest. Then the next thing you know, you're just strewn about all these different things that you kind of are interested in and want to do. And then, you look at yourself after a few years and maybe you haven't done as much as you would like. Maybe I'm just sublimating some of my insecurities here. But there's something to be said about that too. It's like if you really commit to something,
Yeah,
then
but
you
I
have
mean,
to
I
make
think
that promise to yourself.
I don't know, but I think it could also go the other way where like, if you look at, you and I might have a lot of different interests,
Yeah.
but we're also focusing a good amount of our time and professions in a specific skill area,
Yeah.
right? And
Right.
so it's not like it's either or. Like you can set aside a chunk of your time that's just de facto like that's my profession, I'm doing this,
Right.
and also have these other complementary interests and areas. It's not like you have to be totally focused in one domain
Yeah.
all the time. It's okay to
Yeah.
be very focused in one domain and also very focused in another domain at different times.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think that those two ideas are mutually exclusive with what I was trying to say. I think that, but if you were to like pick a hobby, for example, or pick a new area of focus, like there should be like a cost that you impose on yourself to do that thing. That I think that's what I'm trying to say. If you're
Could
like,
be.
oh, I want to, because next thing you know, it's like you've tried 30 things in 2 years. And then you're like, oh, I didn't like that. It's like there's not one thing that you're going to. I definitely see a lot of that too, especially with folks in their 20s. And I think I struggle with it probably as late teens, early 20s. Once you start to kind of dive into something, right? Just pick something.